Okay, so welcome to our class. So our discussion for today would be uh, the usage of a DBMS, particularly on uh, this example of ours, which is the MySQL command line client. Okay, so the concept of DBMS starts with how the data is stored in our computer systems. So it has a hierarchy wherein it resides on what we call a software called as the DBMS, or the database management system. Okay, so under the database management system, or sometimes this is referred as software, okay, it has the capability to store several databases. So you can find a lot of databases inside a single DBMS. Okay, so under the database, we have the another level, which is the division of storage inside the database, called as the tables. Okay, so these tables are composed of what we call fields. Okay, the columns that we see each time we encounter a report. Okay, example is the students list. We have the student number, student name, address, and so on. Those are fields. Okay, so these fields are designed on whatever data they are uh, uh, trying to control. Okay, so these data are uh, defined by uh, creating the data type and size. Okay. Okay. So, under the tables, okay, we can find the records inside of it, okay, which we call as rows. Okay. So, rows or records. Okay. So, it is called as rows because it is a horizontal collection of an entity, okay, which are the individual parts of those records. For example, we have a field for last name, and another field for first name, and another field for middle name. Of course, we will be having three entities there: the last name, or the content of the last name, the content of the first name, and then the content of the middle name. Okay, so it is called as entity. So in database, we can manipulate every data inside of it, because that's the sole purpose of having this software, okay, to store, manage, or even delete the data inside of our systems. Okay, uh, the transaction processing system, reservation system, accounting information system, every system has a database. Okay, even your phones has a database for your contacts and whatever data you want to store there. Okay, so let's first familiarize ourselves in the usage of a single DBMS called as the SQL. Okay, so SQL stands for Structured Query, okay, Query Language. Okay, sometimes they refer this as standard query language because the structured query language was standardized by the American National Standards Institute in 1986, and of the ISO, or International Organization for Standardization, on 1987. So sometimes they call this standard query language or structured query language. So uh, uh, for me, I would rather call this as a structured query language, because every query has a structure, or a form on how we request for a data to be returned to us. Okay, so this structure must be complied in order to uh, avoid errors in our query. Okay, it's called as query because it is like asking something in our uh, computer systems. Okay, so query means to request something, or a command to request something. Okay, a query. Okay, and then the language is on how we talk to the computers, on how the computers understand whatever command we threw upon uh, the interface. Okay, so our interface that we'll be using is a non-GUI. So GUI means graphical user interface. Okay, so non-GUI, everything that you see will be on a text form. Okay, so the MySQL which we will be using is a non-GUI uh, interface of a database. Okay, we also have GUI form, but that is for other versions. But in order to familiarize ourselves on the queries, okay, we will be using a non-GUI. Okay, so I'll just open up the MySQL 5.5 command line client here, and then it displays me the uh, this black screen, okay, which I'll be uh, typing in my password here. So my password is of course it depends on whatever systems you are logging in upon. Okay, so here it is, and then once your password is correct, it will just give you a welcome or greetings in the usage of the software itself. Okay, so this is a copyright of Oracle. Okay, so Oracle is a registered trademark of the Oracle Corporation, which is a company that produces DBMS. Okay, so here we have a blinking what we call this a marker, okay, which will be typing in our queries. Okay, so the first keyword, okay, or command that we'll be using is the commands or keywords for displaying. So I'll just list everything that we'll be discussing here. Okay, so keyword for displaying. Okay, so the first one that we'll be using is the keyword for show. Not shop, show. Okay, so there. Uh, I'll be using this keyword to show both uh, databases and tables. Okay, so this keyword is only applicable for showing the database and the table reports inside our DBMS, but it has no effect, or it can't be used for records. So it can be used in this two here, but it can't be used in the uh, underlining hierarchy of our DBMS. Okay, so I'll be using show. Okay, MySQL is not case sensitive, so you can either type in uppercase format or lowercase format. It doesn't matter as long as the spellings are correct, the commands are correct. It You won't have any problems with that. Okay, so let's say I want to send a query or request to show whatever database inside this computer has, okay, or this client has. Okay, so every query must end with what we call the semicolon. Okay, so that is the marker that signifies that your query or your command is uh, ending. Okay, so if you will be typing that, it will just create a new line or expect that you have something more on your query. Okay, so let's just use this query, show databases. Oops, show databases, and it will just give you the report in a text form and not a graphical form. Okay, so it looks like a graphics, but it is composed of purely text. Okay, so we have 4 rows in set of that report. Okay, so these are the databases inside of our command line client, and we can display whatever table is inside this databases that we have. But for now, we'll try to create our own database. Okay, so we'll just try to add another sample database here. Okay, so maybe I'll just use another keyword. Okay, the keyword for creation. Okay, creation. Okay, so there are several keywords for creation of every element inside our DBMS, but as of now, we'll be using create. Okay, so the create keyword is used to create databases and tables only. It can't be used in creating rows or entity. Okay, or records inside the tables. Okay, it can't be used. Okay, we have another keyword for that. Okay, so we'll just use this create here, and then I'll type in here create, let's say a database named as create database, let's say uh the school that we are currently enrolled. Okay, for me, I'll just use UL, or University of Luzon. Okay, create database UL and then semicolon to indicate I'm through with my command. Okay, so my command is okay, and then we also have one row affected because it created another record for our database. So to confirm that, we will be using the show databases again, okay, to display the existing database inside our client here. Okay, show databases, and then there we go. Okay, we have now 5 rows in set. Okay, so these databases are, of course, as you can see, it's not in uppercase format, unlike the ones that I just typed in here. Okay, so the SQL is not case sensitive. Okay, so we'll just use the UL and then create some tables inside of it. So the first step that you will be uh, performing, okay, in a database management software operation is to indicate what database are you going to work on. Okay, so in order to create tables, you must say to the uh, DBMS what database it will be putting your uh, or creating your table. Okay, so I'll just use the keyword use and then the name of your database, use UL. Okay, so by having uh, this query, the DBMS now knows which database uh, is being used to create tables, uh, create records, and just manage everything inside of it. Okay, if you want to move to another database, then you just use and then specify whatever database you will be using. Okay, so now we're inside the database UL. We can now create the next level for our storage, which is the tables. Okay, so the tables are created simultaneously with the fields, okay? Because in a table, it has a structure wherein it must contain a storage or a portion of it to store several fields or just one field for the record. Okay, so let's say I'll try to create a uh, table name as, let's say, employees. Okay. Okay, so let's try to create, okay, type in here to create table, uh, let's say employees. Okay, so create table employees, and I'll be specifying what fields am I going to create inside that by having this opening close parenthesis and typing every field that I want to create. Okay, so for example, we have employee number. Okay, so I'll just use underscore because the SQL uses space as a separator for its commands. So if you want to have uh, an space for your as a separator for your, let's say, two words or more for your field names, then you can just use other characters. Okay, so for me, I'll just use underscore. Okay? For example, employee number or M underscore number. That's just a shortcut. Okay, and then I'll just create this field with the data type of integer. Okay, so integer with this size of, let's say, 2. Okay, if you'll be specifying whatever size of that, okay, the size of 2 limits uh, the field with a 2 character limitation. Okay, number 2 yes, 2 character limitation. So it has a maximum of 99 if you'll be specifying 2. Okay, if you'll be having this on 3 on the maximum, okay, it has a maximum of 999, but on the 1000 employee, then it will just have an error there. Okay, so maybe if you'll be designing the employee number and you are expecting a tens of thousands of employees, then you can just put in here 5, or if your company has let's say millions of uh, employees, then you can just put in here 7. Okay, 7 characters. Okay, so there. Okay, but the maximum of the data size would be 255. Okay, so that is the maximum number of characters you can input in the whatever data uh, type that you have. Okay, so for example, I'll just use let's say 4. Okay, okay, this is just an example, and I'll be specifying this as a primary key. Okay, okay, so that every employee number is unique. Okay, and it can't be duplicated. Okay, yeah. Okay, so primary key, and then I'll just add another property which saves me time in creating records, okay, and not entering the employee number manually. So I'll just put in here auto increment. Okay, so the auto increment property uh, creates the feature for uh, that field here, the employee number, to uh, have the record in incremental value every time you add another record. Okay, so for example, the first record, of course, the employee number is 1, and then the next number would be on incremental value 2, 3, 4, and so on. It will automatically assign the number on that record. Okay, so that's the purpose of auto increment property. Okay, so I'll just put an comma there to specify that everything here belongs to employee number, and whatever I'll be typing on the next part of my query is it just belongs to that field. Okay, so besides employee number, I'll just type in here another storage for employee name, and I'll be using a varchar, okay, or various characters type of data, wherein it can accept both alphanumeric and symbol uh, characters for that field. Okay, so sometimes our names has uh, a symbol like the NY, okay, which is very common in Filipino and other nationality. Okay, so I'll just use varchar to be uh, sure, okay, that I won't be having problems if the time comes that I have an employee that has a symbol in their names. Okay. So otherwise, if you have an employee which has a symbol on their name, like let's say uh Nino, okay, so which contains an enye, then uh, it will just recognize that as Nino. Okay. So I'll just use varchar, okay, rather than char, which is a standard alphabet. Okay. So varchar, let's say 255. Okay. That is the safe point wherein every name, okay, that you will be entering won't be using a lot of uh, storage. Okay. So uh, there's no name that has that 255 characters. Okay. Okay, so another one would be, let's say, employee address. Okay, I'll just put in here varchar. Okay, and then the last one would be employee, let's say, salary. Okay, emp salary, okay, monthly salary or what. And I'll just use in here, let's say, integer. Okay, a whole number for the salary. Okay, integer with a maximum size of, let's say, uh 6 characters, okay, because we might have an employee that has a salary of 6 digits. We should that was me. Okay, so anyways, we'll just end the query with an a close parenthesis to uh, have a pair on the opening parenthesis here. Okay, so close parenthesis and then semicolon. There. If your query is uh, has no error, then you'll be having this uh, response here. Query, okay, 0 rows affected because it has no uh, records yet. Okay. So if we want to display whatever table we have on our database UL, okay, you can just use the keyword show again, okay, show tables, okay, and then semicolon, okay, and then there, that's the one that we have just created, the table employees, okay. So otherwise, if your database doesn't have any tables inside of it, then it will just throw a result of no rows, okay. Okay, or empty set. Okay. So, now we'll try to create records inside our table because the hierarchy is that you can now create records inside the tables. Okay, so the records are composed of entities or the single part of each rows. Okay, so I'll just try to have another keyword here in creation of rows or records. We'll be using what we call insert. Okay, so the creation of record requires insert keyword, okay, and this would be the structure of our command, okay. So we'll be typing in here insert into, and then you will be specifying what table are you going to insert values, okay, or insert records. Okay, so in this example we'll be using the table name as employee, so I'll just put in here insert into employees. Okay, that's the name of the table, and then I'll be specifying what uh field are we going to insert data. Okay, so as of now, the employee number has the property of auto increment, so we won't be required to insert data on that particular field. So we'll just skip that one and then let the computer do its job, auto incremental of every record that it will just add. Okay, so we'll jump on to the next field here, which is the employee name. Okay, so after the employee name, we'll also be indicating employee address. Okay, so comma, employee address. And then the next one would be the employee salary or emp salary. Okay, so that's the three fields that we will be inserting data upon. Okay, so after specifying the fields and the table, okay, so I'll just uh, type in here the or press the enter button just to give me a let's say clean query. Okay, so once that I have just pressed the enter button without the semicolon, it will just type in here a single or two character indicating this is just a next line. I didn't type this one here. The SQL or the DBMS created that to tell me that this is a next line where the continuation of my query will be acknowledged. Okay, so I'll be inserting into employees a data for the employee name, employee address, and employee salary. And then the values, okay, so I'll just type in here, the values will be as follows. Okay, so for example, I have typed in here the first column would be employee name. Then I'll be typing in here the employee name. Okay. And since our data has a type of varchar, I'll be using double quote. Okay. To indicate that this word is not a command. Okay. It is just a text. So this double quote secures whatever inside that double quote or quotation, that it is not a command. Okay, because if you will be neglecting the usage of the double quote, the query will be on the error status. Okay. It will just recognize the word that you will be typing as a command, and if that's not on its let's say vocabulary of commands, then you'll be having an error later on. Okay, so there. I'll just put in here an employee name. For example, I'll just use my name here. Okay, so Luigi. Okay, I'll just put in here, let's say two words, Sunny space Luigi. There. And then another comma. So I'll just follow the format that I have just said on the first line, the employee address. Okay, so for example, I'll be using an address of, let's say, Dagupan City. Okay, and then for the salary, okay, since this is an integer, okay, you can use or you can insert the data without double quote or what, but if you want, you can also put in the double quotation. Okay, as for me, I'll just use no double quote. Okay, for example, the salary of that employee on a monthly basis would be, let's say, 15,000. All right. So there, I won't be using a comma because the comma acts as a separator. Okay, so every integer that you will be using must be on a continuous form. Okay, so if you want to add another record to be simultaneously inserted on our table, you can just put comma there and then type in enter, and then you can type another line there. Okay, so for example, we'll just put another record. Okay, to be uh, the another row that will be added. For example, I'll just let's say Mark Joseph. Okay, so another employee name as Mark Joseph. Okay, from, let's say, uh, from Santa Barbara. Okay, okay, and then the salary would be, let's say, 16,500. Okay. And then let's say let's add another one. Okay. We'll just have three records there. Okay. This one would be let's say uh, Roseanne. And then we'll be having uh, the address of this employee as Kalasiao. with a salary of, let's say, 20,000. Okay. So if that's enough for you, then you can just put in the semicolon to indicate that your query is ending. Okay. So if your query is has no error, then you'll be having this uh, result here. Query okay, 3 rows affected. We have now 3 records and 0 duplicates and 0 warnings. Okay, so we just created records. Okay, the entities are the single parts of those rows or records. Okay, so if we want to display the rows, we won't be using the show. Okay, because the show a keyword is just used to show the database and the table itself. Okay, if we will be using or displaying, okay, we'll be requesting for a report on the records or an entity. Okay, we'll be using what we call select. Okay, we'll be selecting fields that will be displayed on whatever query that we will be or we want to display. Okay, so I'll just use or type in here select, and then for now I'll be using select asterisk, meaning I'll be selecting every field available for display inside from whatever table I'll be retrieving the data. Okay, so for example, select asterisk from, let's say, table employees. Okay, so it just means that select everything from employees. Okay, so that's my query or my request. Okay, so if I'll be sending this query to my DBMS, it will just display like this. Okay, so it selected every field to display from your table employees. Okay, uh, if you have a typographical error, so for example, we have just select asterisk from employee without the S. Okay, so what if I'll just use this one? Okay, will it retrieve the data from the table employees? Okay, or the table employee? Let's try to find out. Okay, I will just have the error here. Table and the database employee doesn't exist because we have no table which is named as employee. We have a table named as employees. Okay, so always remember to check whatever table you are working upon. Okay, so going back to our selection. Okay, if you want to select a certain field, okay, I'll be using this keyword here. For example, I want to display the name and then the address. Okay, employee, select employee name, comma, employee address. Okay, from the table name employees. Okay, so with this query that I just type in here, okay, it will display the employee name and employee address only. So it just selected the two fields that I just specified. Okay, so for example, what if I want to display the name and then the salary? Okay, so I'll just type in here select employee name and then employee salary. Okay, from employees. Okay, and then that's the another result for from my query. Okay, so if you want to display the names, okay, as not m underscore name, because sometimes we can understand that m, what is that m? Okay, empty, employee, okay, okay, impose or what? Okay, so we can have our displaying, okay, uh, with what we call alias or alias. Okay, so we'll be using the uh, alias to display a certain word, okay, rather than having this emp name and emp salary. So I'll just select in here, select name as, and then I'll be using a single quote, employee name. Okay. So it will display the M as employee name. Okay. And then M salary as let's say monthly salary. Oops. Monthly salary from table employees. Okay. Okay. So it display the field name as whatever you specified on the usage of alias using the as uh, keyword here. Okay, so employee there's no more underscore, but it displayed a space because it's all right. We have a single quote to indicate whatever here is just a text. Okay, so using alias doesn't uh let's say alter your structure of your employee. It's still emp name and emp salary as created. Okay, this is just a temporary view of the emp name. Okay, you can also select other or type in other name. Okay, that is just a temporary on whatever or how will you present or how the data will be presented to you. Okay, so that is the usage of alias. Okay. So now we'll be using what we call uh, clause. Okay. So the clause can be uh, used to specify what field or what conditions do you want to impose for whatever data you want to retrieve. For example, I want to retrieve employees uh, that has a name of Roseanne or that has a name of Sunny Luigi or has a salary of 15,000. Okay, so we will be using a clause or the where clause. Okay, so the where is a clause that will specify a condition for the DBMS to know what data are you going to retrieve with the condition. Okay, so we'll just use the where clause. Okay, so let's say let's select everything from the table employees. Okay, then I'll just add a condition here that where the emp salary is equal to 15,000. So it will retrieve every employees that has a salary of 15,000. So if I'll be using that where, okay, it will just uh, display my name here, okay, because I am the only employee that has a salary of 15,000. Okay, now what if the condition is 15,000 and above? Okay, or let's say more than 15,000, then I'll just type in here, select everything or asterisk from employees where M salary is greater than 15,000. If that's my condition, then this will be the result. Okay, I won't be included in the uh, displayed result because my salary is 15,000 and not greater than 15,000. So everyone who is greater than 15,000 will be displayed here. Okay? So I hope you understand it. Okay. So for example, every employee that has lesser than 20,000. Let's try that one. Select asterisk from employees where employee salary is lesser than 20,000. And there. Okay. Every employee that has lesser than 20,000 salary is displayed on that query. Okay. So, equal, greater than, less than or equal or less than or equal or greater than can be used as a condition. Okay, so let's try to use this in displaying employees which are greater than 15,000 but less than 20,000. Okay. In our where clause, we'll be using uh, what we call end. Okay. So end. Okay. So the end property of the clause, okay, will be specifying another condition. Okay. So for our query. So for example, we'll be retrieving an employee. Okay. Select a series from employee where the salary is greater than 15,000 and employee salary of less than 20,000. So the condition is 2. Okay. It must be more than 15,000 and it must be less than 20,000. If that's the condition, then this will be displayed. Okay. Only Bart Joseph. Why? Because he has the property or he has the value of salary of 15,000 and above, but more than or less than 20,000. Okay. So that is the use of and. Okay. So I hope we just got the idea on that one. Okay. So we have two conditions. So the where clause are used for conditions. Okay. Clause are used for conditions. Conditions. Okay, for conditions, you must use clause. Okay, we'll be using another property of clause, but later on. Okay, it will be used for later on discussions. Okay, so now we'll just try to have a simple example wherein we'll be displaying the same here. Okay, but with the different condition. For example, I want to display, instead of relying on the salary, I want to display employees that starts with letter M or letter R. Okay, so here we'll be using what we call wildcards. Okay, wildcards are displayed as percentage form. Okay, so these wildcards will be put in our where clause to specify that whatever whatever character before and after these conditions of ours will be uh, considered. Okay, so the percentage is a wildcard symbol. Okay, so we'll be using that on the searching of our record for names. Okay, so select asterisk from employees. Okay, where, okay, this time we'll be using employee name. Okay, name uh, is let's say like. Okay, instead of using equal. Okay, because equal, greater than, or less than is used for arithmetic. Equal is can also be used to retrieve specific record equal. But if you are not familiar with the record, you can just use like. Okay, so that is just a let's say assumption on whatever will be displayed. Okay, so we'll be selecting data from employees where the employee name is like, let's say, opening close close parenthesis, double quote. Okay, and inside that we'll just put in here, let's say R, and whatever character will follow is okay. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, select a series from employees where the employee name is like R or starts with R. Okay, so let's try to enter this, and it will just display this one here. Okay, Rose Ann. Okay, so what if the condition is that the employee address, let's say, starts with letter C, or letter D, okay, or ends with letter Y, okay, or end, okay. So let's try this one. Select a series from employees where the employee address is like, let's say, starts with letter D and ends with letter Y. Okay, let's try this one here. Okay, so that's the condition of having this starts with letter D and ends with letter Y. Okay, so what if we are currently searching for an employee that has, let's say, letter E on their names? Okay, I don't know if that is the first name, that is the first name, that is the first letter of their name or last letter of their name. It I just want to display employees that has letter E on their names. Okay, let's try that one. So select a series from employees where employee name is like, let's say, letter E. So we will be putting the E or E character. Okay, is it before, after, or the middle? Okay, the answer is on the middle of the wildcards. Okay, so whatever, it might be on the first letter or the last letter of the name or inside of whatever character in it, but uh, as long as it has a letter E on their name. So it will display two records, Mark Joseph and Rose Ann. Sunny Luigi doesn't have a letter E on his name. So he is excluded on that query. Okay? So what if I'll be having a word? For example, I just heard the name, okay? And then I want to display what uh, whoever is that. Okay, I think I just heard sun. Okay, so we'll try to use that, okay, as a reference. Select a series from employees where emp name is like sun and whatever follows. Okay, I don't know if the sun is the second word of their last name or their first name, so I'll just specify here, oops, there. Okay, a wildcard that has a sun, okay, and then another wildcard after the word sun. Okay, it will display Sunny Luigi. Okay, so for example, I heard Louis. Okay, so I'll just use that as a reference in searching for records of employees that has a name, okay, where M name is like, let's say I just heard Louis. Okay, Louis or whatever is Louis. Okay, there. Okay, so it will display the record of Sunny Luigi. So I just put in here a wildcard to specify that I don't know if that word is the second word of their first name or what. Okay, because if this wildcard will be removed, okay, let's try that. Okay, let's type in here, select a series from employees where name is like, let's say, Louis, okay, or Louis, and then wildcard, okay. Does it display my name? Let's try to find out. No, because it refers this as the first three letters, and whatever follows is the record that we are currently searching. But the result gave us an empty set because there is no employee that has a first three letter on their name as LUI. Okay, so the LUI can be found on the second word of my name, so it will be having an empty set or empty result on our query. Okay, so that is the use of where clause. Okay, so now let's try to use another keyword, okay, with the use of this where. Okay, we'll try to edit. Okay, so in editing, okay, keyword for edit, okay, is we have update. Okay, this is used for updating rows and or entity. Okay, so just like the keyword for rows and entity, we have select and insert, show and create for database and table. So what is the keyword for editing the database and table? Okay, actually for the database, you won't be having a keyword of renaming the database itself. Okay, but for the table, you have the ability to uh, edit just the fields only. Okay, you can either add another field or delete the field. Okay, so as of now, we'll be just uh, tinkering on the records, okay, using this update. Okay, the other keyword will be used later on, okay, once that we have mastered this update. Okay, so in using the keyword for update, I'll just type in here, let's say I want to change the address of this particular employee, Sunny Luigi. Okay, maybe he moved from Dagupan to, let's say, uh Mangaldan. Okay, so we'll just use in here update and then the table name, update employees. Okay, and then let's try to set, okay, the new value for the employee address as, let's say, Mangaldan. Okay, update employees, set the employee address into Mangaldan where, okay, so this is where the where clause is very important, okay, because if we won't be using the where clause, okay, it will just update every employee. Okay, so let's try that one. Let's try that one first. Okay, update employees, set employee address Mangaldan. Okay, it returned a okay query. Three rows were affected, three rows matched, and three were changed. Okay, so what happened? Okay, let's try to display the table employees. Okay, okay. Now we have every employee with the address of Mangaldan. So that's a problem. Okay, that's the problem where uh, if you won't be specifying a record which this query will be applied, then everything else inside the table will be affected. Okay, but what if that is the error? Okay, I want to change the address of Mark Joseph. I want to edit that into Santa Barbara. Okay, so I'll just type in here update employees table. Okay, and I'll be setting the employee address, okay, of let's say Santa Barbara. Okay? Only for employee with the employee number of 2. Let's try that one. Where employee number is equal to 2. Okay. So that is the condition. I'll be setting the employee address under the table employees for employees with an employee number 2. Let's try that one. Okay. Query okay, one row affected, one rows match, or and then one change. Let's try to display again our records. Select asterisk from employees, and then there we go. We just updated the employee address of an employee with the employee number 2, which is Mark Joseph. Okay, so that is the usage of update. So let's try to practice again here on Roseanne. Okay, let's try to update employees and setting their employee address equal to Palaciao. Okay, where let's say I won't be using the employee number because I don't know the employee number, for example. Okay, I'll be using employee name. Okay, where the employee name is equal to Roseanne. Okay, uh, okay. As you can see, I didn't use like, but because I know the exact words, okay, or exact value for the employee name, and then semicolon, enter. Very okay, one row affected, one match, and then one change. Let's try to display again our records. There, okay. So we just fixed the problem of not using the where clause. Okay. So that's the purpose of update. Okay. So you can also update several records, for example, employee number 1 and 3, okay? So, or 3, okay? So for example, like that. You can simultaneously edit those records. Okay. So, for example, or maybe we will be using that as an example on the other. Okay. Now, we'll try to edit the structure of a table. Okay. So, we'll be having another field. So, for example, having, let's say, uh, instead of salary, let's say, position. Okay. Let's try to add position here. Okay. Employee position or, uh, that's it. Employee position. Okay. So, maybe I'll just start all over, or I'll just have to edit the table itself. Okay. So, I'll just try to familiarize myself on the structure of the table employees. So I'll be using for displaying the structure. Okay, we have desk. Okay, desk or describe. Okay, using this keyword for displaying a structure of the table. Okay, the describe will just give you the field, the table, uh, or the field, the data type for each field and the data size for each field, as well as the other properties. So we'll just use this to display the structure of the table before we edit it. Okay, so I'll just type in here desk or describe employees. Okay, so it will give me this result here. So the table employees has a field of employee number, employee name, employee address, employee salary, and the type here, okay, the null value, okay, default for the employee number is no because it has an automatic uh, value, and it has no empty. Null means empty. Okay, record. Okay, and this is the primary key. Okay, and then the extra is auto increment. This is other properties that we have. Okay, So in default value, everything is null, but for the employee number, okay, if you will be having another record, it will auto increment. Okay, so there. That is the structure of our employees, and every time we display everything in employees, it will just display this uh, record here. Okay, so we'll try to edit the structure of employees. We'll try to add position. Okay, so in adding other field, we'll be using we'll be using alter. Okay, alter or to modify. Okay, alter is used for tables only. Okay, so alter table employees. Okay, and then let's try to add there. So we have drop and add keywords, okay, to specify what we want to do. Okay, so we'll be altering the table employees and adding another field name as employee position. Okay, with a data type of varchar, maximum character of, let's say, 255. Okay, just to be sure. Then enter. Okay, query okay, 3 rows affected. We have 3 records on that. And if we want to display if this has an effect on our field or the structure of the table, we'll be using the desk again to describe the table employees to check if this field was added when we altered our table employees. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have here uh, employee number, name, address, salary, and position. So now, every time that we will be displaying everything in our uh, employee table, okay, we will be having this another column here or another field here. Emp position, everything is null because we don't have a value for them. Okay, unlike here, we have no emp position. Okay, so we just added this because we just added this. That's why we have this null value here or empty value. If you want to edit that, then you just use update employees. Okay, set the emp position to, let's say, uh, for employee number 1, let's try to add that as faculty member, for example. Okay, okay, oops, before I forgot, we must have where. Okay, where employee number is equal to 1 or employee number is equal to 2. Okay. Now we have other or another keyword here, the or, okay, on our where clause. Okay. So in the where clause, we have and or. Okay. In the end clause, okay, both condition must be true to be implemented on that particular condition. Okay, so for example, my employee number is 1 and employee number is 2. So, but if we'll look at that logically or think at that logically, of course, there's no employee that has 2 employee number. Therefore, it won't be uh, recognized. Okay, but if we will be using this or, okay, okay, the condition is 2, okay, rather than 1. Okay, so the condition is the employee number is 1 or the employee number is 2. So we have 2 employee. Okay, we have employee number 1 and then the employee number 2. So this is the condition, and this will be uh applied with these conditions here. So let's try that one. Okay. 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 There we go. We have two rows affected. The two we have two match rows here. Okay. And then the change uh records is 2. Okay. Now we'll try to display if the OR done its job. Okay. So select asterisk from employees. There. Okay. So employee number 1 or employee number 2 has the position of faculty member. So that's the purpose of OR. If you don't want to have two conditions to be met, then just use OR. If you want the two conditions to be met, to be applied by whatever data you will be inserting, then you must use AND. Okay. So for example, I'll be uh, update the table employees. Okay. I'll be setting the employee position to, let's say, program head. Program head. Okay. Uh, where employee number or employee, let's say, employee name is equal to Roseanne. Okay. And okay, so for example, I'll just use and. Okay. The other condition is employee address. Okay. An employee with the name of Roseanne and the address is, let's say, Mangaldan. Okay. What will happen if this is our condition? The condition is that the employee name must be Roseanne and the address must be Mangaldan. Okay? Let's try this command here or query here if this will be applied to Roseanne and Luigi. Okay. The command is doesn't have any error, but no rows were affected. Why? Because there is no employee name uh, with there is no employee that has a name of Roseanne that resides in Mangaldan. We have a Roseanne that resides in Calasiao. Maybe that is the one that you are looking for. Okay, so the end clause here gave us the other condition to be met before applying whatever changes that we just type in. Okay, so that is the power of end clause. Okay, so I'll just try to update uh, the employees. Update employees. Set the emp position to program head. Okay. Where emp name or employee name is equal to or like starts with letter R or like Rose and then whatever is in our record. Okay, so for example, something like that. Okay, or you can also just specify, okay, rows and there. There, very okay. Now we have one row affected, the rows were matched, and then it has been changed. Okay, so let's try to display. Select a series from employees, then there we go. Okay, so now we have edited uh the structure of the table, and we also have edited the record themselves. Okay, so the lesson for this session is applied, and I hope you learned something, and I'll be seeing you on another set of lesson by next meeting. Okay, so again, thank you for the time and have a nice day.